Welcome to the Business Owner Elevation Podcast, the show that's designed for coaches, consultants, and expert business owners that are looking to achieve higher levels of productivity and profitability, where we share battle-tested tactics and innovative ideas that guarantee to elevate your business rapidly. Brought to you from the award-winning Best UK Business Podcast in 2015. Without further ado, here's your hosts, Robert Dean Smith and Leon Street.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Business Owner Elevation Podcast. Yes, there are birds singing in the background and we'll get onto that in a moment. It's Leon Street in the house alongside my co-host,
Robert D. Smith. The best in the house,
cool.
Leon. I heard birds. I thought it was me. I thought I was in a net.
I think we're in the Garden of Paradise right now for all the listeners listening, and you can hear the laughs of a very beautiful lady in the background, and that's because I'm just going to jump straight into it. We have waiting in the wings a really amazing lady, and her name is Rachel Pedersen. I just want to welcome you to the show first of all, Rachel.
Thank you so much, you two, for having me. I'm not as crazy as you guys are, but I do live over in, like, people say I live in the Twitter sphere, so you can hear all the birds tweeting everywhere, but it's actually because it's a beautiful day, so I'm outside and I get to speak to you guys, so I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome. So we're going to get straight into the interview in a moment, but Rob, how have you been?
It's been good, Lee. I mean, I think we hadn't spoken for a little while. I mean,
no, you jetted off to London, and I was like, "Where's Rob gone?"
Yeah, it was on our schedule. I must have put it down late, but it was a crazy day in London, so it was like 18 hours of non-stop crazy movements and meetings, and then arriving back at the ranch and collapsing in bed.
Cool. Excellent. Well, at least we know where Rob is right now, and he is with us, Elevation Nation. So we're going to get stuck into this, and let me just give you a little bit about who Rachel is. And so she's a social media powerhouse, and as it goes, she helps entrepreneurs attract massive attention by using social media like a pro. Now, one of the key things that attracted me to Rachel as I was hunting her down, researching, and looking at who could we have as our next guest, I could just see that she was very genuine in her approach, in not just getting out to entrepreneurs, but actually connecting people. That's one of the real key things that I see. She always puts messages out there. I've got people looking for this. Who does this? I'll connect you guys together, and that's a really important thing when you're in business, to be able to know people who are connectors. And for me, Rachel does that flawlessly online, and she's got a whole load of other things. And we're going to get into that, I'm sure, in the interview. But I just want to welcome Rachel to the show. We are really privileged to have her here. We've arranged this a couple of times because we wanted to wait for the very right time to do this interview, and now is that very time. so welcome to the show.
Her voice is sounding like velvet and honey. Velvet and honey in my ears.
Cool.
Oh my God.
So as I said, welcome. And the way that we kick off these interviews, Rachel, is first of all, now, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner. We always start off with the first question to find out, do you have a mantra, key principles, or a quote in the way that you work and your outlook on life and business?
It's not an intentional mantra that I have, but it's definitely something that goes through my mind quite a bit. And it's this idea that if you take care of people, people will always take care of you. And I think it actually might be like a U.S. Army line. I think it might be one of their mottos, because my dad used to say that, and he was in the Army. And he would just always say, if you take care of your people, they'll take care of you. And that principle followed him when he was a manager of like a pizza shop and everything. He actually was working in a struggling pizza shop, and he started to just go above and beyond taking care of the people that worked there. And then in turn, those people went above and beyond and took care of the customers. And before you knew it, they had turned around the entire restaurant and made it one of the top selling in that entire pizza chain. So the owner of the company came out. My dad just said, if you take care of the people. And so there was kind of this idea of, why can't that principle be, I guess, alive in my business too? So I take super, super, super good care of my people, and they take care of me. It's amazing.
Awesome. Awesome. I like that. Some reciprocity going around for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. I like this. I think we're going to start off with stories, Rob. I've got that feeling. We went straight into a story there with a father. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Rob, handing over to you.
No, I like it, and it just that kind of reminded me of like the great Zig Ziglar. You know, if you help enough people get what they want, you in turn get what you want. So I like this principle of going the extra mile. I like this principle of giving and taking care of your people, because then they take care of you. So no, wonderful. It's a great start. So Rachel, I'd like to move us into, that was an excellent story. I'd like to hear a little bit, and I'm sure our audience will, the Elevation Nation, would like to find out a little bit more about your journey. And you can be a shortened version or a spiffy version, but basically how you got involved in what you're doing now as a great connector, and what may have happened prior to you, becoming very influential in this space. So yeah, just give us a little bit about background about where you are and what you're doing, what you're planning to do in the future.
Definitely. So my journey has been actually still pretty short at this point, at least as an entrepreneur. One of the things that I think is the coolest part about a lot of our journeys is you realize that most of the development happened before you actually went on the journey.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everything that happened leading up to it was preparing you for it. So it's kind of funny. I grew up the oldest of 3 girls, and my dad was many different things. He was a pastor at one point. He was a nurse at one point. He was the manager of a pizza shop. And my mom she was a musician. So as I was growing up, I just remember, and I'm telling you guys a little bit different version of the story. I'm telling you guys some of the stuff that other people haven't really heard before, because let's keep it fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I can feel that vibe already, Rachel. So keep
going. So one of the things that was kind of funny is, my parents, when my dad was a pastor and my mom was a musician, there were a lot of opportunities to be up on stage. And let me tell you, I took all of those opportunities. So when I was growing up, there would be the play at the play at the church, and I would jump to the middle of the stage because I wanted to be the star. And my dad would always have to say my maiden name, but Rachel, this is not the Rachel Bell Show. But I think he kind of missed something, because it was the Rachel Bell Show. And now it's the Rachel Pedersen Show. No, I'm just kidding. But I loved attention. I loved taking center stage. I loved being overly social all the time. And it got me in a lot of trouble in school and in college and everything. So I was never a great student, but all of that social kind of started to really pay off, because now that's exactly what I do. So my journey took a lot of trouble for things that ended up kind of secretly being my superpowers. After that, I became a single mother to an amazing daughter named Dakota, and she is just about to turn 7 this year. But I was like, okay, how do I provide for a kid when I'm still feeling like a kid myself?
Yeah.
I have no idea how to do this. So I decided to go for something that felt logical. It made sense. And I became a hairstylist. So one of the big parts of our journey, if you followed me at all for a little bit, or if you're brand new to me, one of the things that's like my heartbeat is helping single moms, but not necessarily by just giving them a handout. It's by helping to empower them to live a different life. I remember when I was a hairstylist, or going to school to be a hairstylist, like I had to take the bus an hour and a half each way every day. And we didn't have a car. If I wanted to go shopping, it was like at Goodwill, because I had no money. So I still remember the days where like I would get a shirt off the rack and it would say $4.99, and I'd be like, I can't afford that. And so it was $1.99 or bust. That's like what it just looked like at that point.
Yeah.
But it also taught me what it is to persevere and really, that was ultimately the definition of fake it till you make it. I'm showing up at these like top salons. They have no idea that I have like 17 cents in my bank account. They have no idea that I couldn't afford to get my hair done. So I was like frantically doing it in the bathroom, and, I didn't have makeup. So I borrowed my mom's. And so it was this time where I was trying to present myself as the utmost professional. And in reality, I had nothing. So that was something that taught me to be very resourceful and scrappy and to really fake it till you make it. So that's been a part of the journey that most people don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah, absolutely. Go on, Rob.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you shared it, because this is what I'm saying. This is the reason why I said the journey, because like you've actually surmised there, Rachel, it's what you do before that. These skills that you have before normally lead you down the path and get you, close to that step of success, so to speak. So I'm glad you shared that, because there's so many, there's so many success stories, or there's so many people that will say things, and people only look at like, oh, they're the great XYZ person, or they'll say we're the great funnel guys, and they might say you're a great social media gal, but they don't realize the work that has to go in before to get you to this point. So, I'm glad you've shared that with us, or shared
Absolutely. I've got a question then, Rachel. So
Yeah.
obviously you were faking it until you made it, and you were being very resourceful, which I like. Take us from that point up until what you're doing right now then.
Oh man, the journey of like becoming resourceful didn't end there. So I worked as a hairstylist, and that all of that scrappiness, all of that fighting for something really did pay off. When I submitted my resume there were 3 top salons that I wanted to work at. And they were the 3 top salons in Minnesota. I was like, that is what I'm going to work at. There's no doubt in my mind. It's going to be one of those 3. And I ended up getting job offers from all 3 of them. So it was crazy, because I remember I spent time just sitting there, like helping the master colorists and stylists and doing everything I could to win them over. So I worked as a hairstylist for a few years, and one day I had this moment, and it was totally one of those fate moments where you don't know that what just happened is going to forever alter the path of your life. It was so crazy. So this person sat in my chair, and she was a client. We were doing her hair, and she said, I need a little bit of help with my social media. And so we were talking, and I told her I know a little bit about social media. I know how to use Instagram and Facebook. I use it for my business. And she was like, I would love it if you could help my husband and I with our business's social media. The craziest thing is, when I got back from their house after helping them with social media, my husband and I kind of looked at each other, and it started to sink in that something was about to be different. And I said, I think I'm going to go into marketing. So I did. I completely jumped ship and left the hair industry. I got a job by the grace of God. Honestly, I have no idea how I got this job, but at a digital marketing agency in Minneapolis.
From hair to digital marketing.
I still think they are crazy for hiring me. They had no reason to hire me, but I just smiled and laughed. And as you would say, Rob, I used my like buttery velvet voice and charmed them, and I got the job. So then after that, I really wanted to take it more seriously. There I was more of like an employee or a team member. And I applied for a job at an Inc. 5000 tech company as their marketing manager. And I got it. And then it was an incredible job. If I were to work a job for the rest of my life, it would either be at one of the salons I worked at as a hair colorist, or at that job. Those were the 2 best jobs I ever had. But when that entrepreneurial itch comes into play, like, you have to do it. You have to go after your dreams. And so I went after my dreams by securing clients, and here we kind of are today. It's been an incredible ride.
Wow.
Awesome. So Inc. 5000 from hair to that. Wow.
That journey, obviously once you got to the stage where you got a job in one of the top 3 salons, you applied to them, you got the job, and then that fateful day where there was a twist in the plot, and that client asked you, could you help me with my social media? How long was that journey from there to you going to the Inc. 500 to doing your own thing?
Oh, it was pretty short. It felt like a really long time. And the funny thing is, I say this to my husband all the time. I say, oh, everything is taking so long. And he's like, sorry, you've been out of your job for 1 year? Like, I don't think this is taking very long. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. This is a lot faster than a lot of people's journeys go. But I'm a fast mover. I don't like things to take long. I'm like, can we do this like 10 times faster? So from the time I got that first client to the time that I started working at the Inc. 5000 company, I believe that entire period was about a year.
Wow.
That sounds about right. About a year to a year and a half. And then from the Inc. 5000 to today, it's been 2 years. And I've been doing this full time for just over a year.
Wow, what a journey. Some great insights there. And when this, I want to go back to the story of this person who sat into your chair, and obviously at that point you delivered some social media training to was it for the wife and the husband, was it?
So, it's kind of crazy. They ended up being my first client. It was just a small client. So when they said that they owned a franchise, I thought, okay, they own a location. I'll help them with their social media. It'll be fun. I'll see if I like this. Well, it turns out they were the franchisors. So they owned a multi-million-dollar fried chicken chain. And they're incredible. They are one of the biggest parts of my journey. They were mentors and good friends to me. I worked with them for 3 years. We grew together. We took trips together. We celebrated family birthdays and Christmases together. And they really coached me from being kind of like a hairstylist that wasn't very organized or professional or whatever, and kind of taught me the rules of business, which is kind of interesting because I have this theory, you have to know the rules in order to break the rules. And so once I learned the rules of business, I was like, okay, now it's time to inject everything with my personality and do things my way. Yeah. This is how you run a meeting. I just decided I don't want to run meetings. So that's kind of like what they did. They really mentored me and brought me to a state of professionalism, which was it was a huge part of my journey. I worked with them for 3 years.
That's awesome. I think sometimes, when it's meant to be, and then because most people will they'll work 10 years to land that kind of client, and absolutely. There you have it. They walk up to your salon chair and take a seat.
Yes.
And I think that's pretty awesome. So have you got a seat to your child? Was that you, I'm assuming? Somebody said mommy, or was that somebody else?
Maybe.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
That's why I'm outside. So I was like...
We're both fathers. You can't get away from them. You cannot escape them.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, I can go outside and escape them for a little bit. They're just getting ready to go over to grandma's house. But the second I heard mommy, it was like, oh, not safe. Shut the door.
As I said, we're a family, guys. It's a family show.
I love that.
So my next question then is, Rachel, because obviously what you're putting out there right now, social media powerhouse, I'm seeing how you're connecting people, and you're doing some really cool things, and I'm sure you've got more stories to share with us. But what I'd like to do is to tap into one of those stories in particular, and I'd like to find out, so we can understand the lessons that you've learned. Has there been, in your experience of actually being an entrepreneur, business owner, when you moved to this new industry from hair to digital marketing, do you have, we don't like to use the term failure, but do you have a particular failure or lesson that you can share with our audience, and what it is that you learned to come out on the other side of it?
Oh, man. I mean, it's such a crazy journey for every single one of us. You guys have experienced that, I'm sure, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think one of the most interesting things, I used to say, like, oh, if I could go back in time, I would have told myself this, like, start sooner, or something, or like, here's a big golden nugget, avoid this person. And the reality is, if you're in this journey and you want something that kind of helps you to keep moving forward, it's, if you just keep looking forward, it's all going to be worth it. You just have to keep going. But if you stop, if you look backwards, it's almost kind of like this analogy of people reaching for like the next rung on a ladder, but they're still holding onto the rung beneath them. So if you want to go for it, you have to let go of that bottom rung to climb, and it's going to be scary. It's kind of an interesting process, but just to not really to not slow down or look back. Just keep going, keep going, go hard, go fast.
Yeah.
Don't stop.
I've got a question, Rachel. Has there been anything in your experience as a business owner that you kind of put that into question where you thought, I can see what I'm going for. I can see the goal, but this is really tough right now.
Oh, like every day. Let's be real here. There are so many days where it's tough. I've got a team of 10 people. I've got over 400 students. I've got, 20 clients in the agency. It's so tough. And there are days where I'm like, it would be a lot easier to just collect a paycheck.
Yeah.
It would be so much easier. I would probably be bored out of my mind. So it comes up a lot. But the reality is, I look at the things that we've been able to do for others and for our family and for our kids, and even the fact that my husband doesn't have to work. He's lucky guy. He is retired at 33. So people always say, what does he do? And I'm like, he golfs and plays tennis. It's true retirement. And that is such a cool way to be able to live life. It's totally worth it. But in the midst of it, of course, it's hard. There are days where I'm like, this is why not everybody does it. And this is why a lot of people won't find success, because it's so hard.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Rob, over to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up one thing. I mean, you maybe touch on it a bit later because you kind of skimmed over very quickly parts of your organization, the business and the setup at the moment. And I just want to ask you, we can incorporate this in this question, what's your biggest success? But you mentioned you've got 400 students, then you've got an agency side. So just elaborate, because obviously you've been in business 3 years now, how that all came about, the 400 students and the 20 agency clients and et cetera, and then what has been a big takeaway or big success lesson from doing that?
Definitely. So the crazy thing is I took that first client about 3 years ago, but I didn't actually turn this into a real business until about 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago. But one of the things that was one of the toughest parts of the journey was growing as a freelancer while working full time in a 9-to-5. So, how we all I think almost everybody starts as a freelancer when you're first starting your business. If you provide services, you start as a freelancer. It's not glamorous. It is crazy tough. It's I think it's harder than having a big successful business. So I started as a freelancer. I took on clients. I knew that I wanted to continue to grow. Around the same time, I grew, it started to grow, and I started to bring on some people to help me with the workload. And before you knew it, it was okay, I think this is going to be an agency. This is a real business. Let's turn it into a full-on agency. And so we've got the agency side of my business. And then in about May of last year, I launched a university once I started having quite a bit of success teaching other people how to do the same thing and become social media managers. Well, what most people didn't realize was that there were so many different opportunities. For example, people who were in my university, that's the ultimate screening process for future team members. And so I'm able to look in there and see who's helping, see who's participating, see who asks the crazy questions every single day that I don't want on my team. It's the coolest process, but I also get to help people to become successful. So we have the agency side, we have the university side. With my university side, I also have a high ticket mastermind / mentorship program. I don't call myself a coach. I'm more of a marketing and business strategist. And so we bring people's businesses to another level. And it's kind of cool because these are the same people who got their start, in my university. But we now have over 400 students in my university. And and then I also this is kind of crazy. I just became a partner in a big branding company with Leonard Kim and Ryan Foland. So I'm a partner in Influence Tree. So there are lots of cool things going on.
Social media powerhouse in the house. No, that's really cool, and good questions that you've asked there, Rob, just to get those extra bits of details out. And I think that's really cool to see what you've done in the 2 years. And obviously you were freelancing the year before that, but it really is, it's something for other people to see at Elevation Nation as you're listening right now. I'm sure that you can see that it doesn't have to take as long as some people let on, but what you have got to do is put in the work, put in that hustle. And like Rachel was saying a bit earlier, just keep focusing on the goal and keep moving forward. Is there anything else you wanted to ask, Rob, just before I move on?
No, I think Rachel covered it, and you've just summarized it quite nicely. Okay. I just wanted the Elevation Nation to know that, success is attracted to speed, or speed is attracted to success. And yes. You can see from this example here that Rachel has not taken her foot off the pedal and made things just constantly keep going, and other opportunities, other windows of opportunities and doors of opportunities have opened along the way. So I just wanted them to encapsulate and catch that, because I caught it and it seemed like it was just going to go undetected there. Velvet voice. Oh yeah, I got 400 students.
I wrote it down as well, Rob. I was tracking that. So Rachel, thank you for sharing that. My next question then, what's the current big thing our community, Elevation Nation, need to be aware of right now, in your opinion?
Ooh, okay. So this is kind of funny. A lot of people are talking about how Facebook groups are dead. Mm-hmm. And how, if you've noticed, there are a ton of people who are closing down their Facebook groups right now. It's driving me crazy to see it going on, because the thing is, your Facebook group is your ultimate nurturing ground. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I have to just scream this from the rooftops, because I have a Facebook group of, I think it's 8,500 people now. Yeah. And there's social media managers. And it's so crazy, because I'm all 8,500 of them should be in my university. And they will be at some point. But the biggest thing with free Facebook groups, and the reason that I think most people don't nurture them the way that they need to, is they think that a free Facebook group is a place to just promo what your latest offer is. Yeah. And the reality is that's the starting place for a relationship with your potential customers or clients. Mm-hmm. Of course, I kind of almost this is so inappropriate, but I kind of almost see most people treating their Facebook group as a booty call. It's they hit it. I like it, Rachel. That might be the most controversial thing I've ever said on a podcast. But, they hit up their Facebook group when they need something. And
I like this metaphor.
The thing is, your Facebook group is not your side something. Mm-hmm. Your Facebook group is this beautiful relationship that if you nurture it, it turns into a long-lasting relationship where people are yes, I trust you, I like you, I know you, I'm committed to you. I can't believe I just compared a Facebook group to a booty call.
Oh, yes.
All I can say, Rachel, as I said, Robert is our in-house copywriter, and the title for this podcast is already creating itself.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what he comes up with. So that would be really cool. But you know what? I agree with you. I'm in the same vein as what you're talking about here. I think Facebook groups aren't dead, and the only time something dies is when you stop providing value to your people and to your audience, your tribe, your community. And I think that's the key thing, because some of the most active groups that I'm part of, it's the ones that are the content going in, as well as obviously the community members interacting and engaging. I think that's a really important part there. So thank you for sharing that. Rob, over to you.
Of course. Thank you, sir. So where are we? So here's a good thing. This is going to be interesting, because we have a thing in our community that we talk about going to the source and getting knowledge from the best of the best. So I just wanted to ask you, Rachel, if you could probably recommend kind of a book you may have read, or audio resource, or some kind of course that you think would be of value to our audience, to our community. Elevation.
Yeah. I read a lot of books. I read, for fun. I read self-development. I read all across the board. And there have been a couple of books that have really stood out to me. And I will tell you, anytime I read a book, it doesn't necessarily mean that I agree with everything in the book, or even with the author and their way of handling everything. It's more about the idea of, did you get a concept from that book that inspired you? And so I just have to put that disclaimer out there. So one book that was really life-changing for me was the book by Grant Cardone, Be Obsessed or Be Average.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Yes.
And what that book kind of taught me, he shared, his journey of growing a business and then becoming stagnant. And then when the market crash hit, all of a sudden he was like, we might lose everything. And he looked at his wife and he said, that will never happen again. And so that book kind of taught me, and if you haven't read it or listened to it on Audible yet, it's something I highly recommend. But that book really taught me that if you're not growing, you are dying in your business. And I used to think, okay, maybe I can do this and, bring in a cool 6 figures and that'll be nice. But the reality is I don't want that. Like, I don't want to be average. I don't want to just be someone who's bringing in enough, because then you don't have the ability to move mountains with your resources. So that book lit a fire in me. And as soon as that happened, I set like these crazy aggressive revenue goals for every single month of this year. And we are actually surpassing those goals as we speak, month over month. So it's been just incredible to see if it continues at the rate that we're doing it and doesn't speed up, which I'm hoping it does, we will 10x our growth from January to December.
Wow.
So it's just incredible, but that's what I want to see. Have you guys read that book?
I've got it on Audible. I have it in the car, Rachel. It's something awesome. My girlfriend interviewed Grant as well, just as the book was being released. So it's a great book, really is.
100%. So good.
So there you go, Rob. I think you need to get a copy as well. I can't remember if you read it or not.
I haven't. That is the one thing of Grant's that I haven't got.
It's the follow-up to 10x. It really does take it to the next level. So it's a really great book. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so here's the next question as we're getting close to wrapping up, Rachel. What's the one thing in business or how you work that you can't live without?
Ooh, coffee. I am such a big coffee drinker, and I'm not like a casual coffee drinker. I drink like pots of coffee every day.
Right.
But okay, that's not like the answer I know you were looking for. So I can't live. I cannot live without whiteboards. I whiteboard everything. So as soon as I get an idea, I start to scribble it down. We actually have I think 10 whiteboards in my office.
Awesome.
And at any given moment, there are just like chicken scratch and diagrams and all these crazy ideas on those whiteboards.
Cool. So whiteboards, are they the answer to success?
Yes, I think so.
Good. Thank you for that. Rob, over to you.
I've got one. I think this will be interesting.
Yeah.
I like this question because I think Rachel's probably going to, let's see. Because I like the booty call answer, so this might be a good answer as well. So, Rachel, if you could invite 3 people for dinner, deceased or alive, who would they be and why?
That you are actually the first person to ever ask me that question, so I've never thought about the answer.
Ooh.
Wonderful, I like this.
So we're going to get a good answer now.
Nation.
Okay. Oh man, you're gonna get like my totally honest answers. My gosh,
we like it.
Okay, I personally am absolutely fascinated by Mark Cuban.
Okay,
he's very fascinating to me. Like, this might sound crazy, but we can mark this down as the day where I say someday we're gonna be friends. We're gonna be buddies. We're gonna hang out in Texas. So Mark Cuban.
This is where it is put down in concrete, guys.
We will be friends. This is so hard. I kind of feel like I have to say this because otherwise, my family would be like, what? I would love to have dinner with Jesus, the biblical Jesus, and ask him questions are you really misquoted? Or what is the craziest Jesus quote you've ever heard? No, but I would love to just get to know him. He seems like he was a very cool guy. And then totally for selfish reasons, I, for years, have had a crush on, not for too many years, but for a few years, on Justin Bieber. And so I'd love to have Justin Bieber to dinner, but my husband would veto that for sure.
Yeah, I think so. There you go. We've put you on the spot.
I don't think we've had any of those. I don't think we've had a Justin Bieber. I'm not sure about Mark Cuban. I don't think we've had Mark Cuban either.
I can't remember. Yeah. Interesting mix anyway. So it kind of gives you an insight, Elevation Nation, into who we have on the show right now.
I'm sorry. I never said I was going to be normal.
You don't like normal. We like obsessed.
Perfect.
Awesome. So, as I said, we're getting very close now to wrapping up, guys. And I'm sure you've enjoyed the interview as much as we have up until now. So, really, I just want to say at this point, Rachel, it's been amazing. Thank you for taking the time out for this interview with our Elevation Nation there along with us. Really appreciate it. If somebody wishes to get in touch with you to find out more about your university, I'm assuming it's an online university, what's the best ways for people to connect with you, Rachel?
The easiest way to find me is rachelpedersen.com or Rachel Pedersen. It's spelled all E's and a D in my last name. Or if you Google my name, thankfully, due to amazing viral posts and everything, if you Google my name, you'll find me on the first 5 pages.
Absolutely. Yep, I can vouch for that. That's how I researched her as well.
It's everywhere. It's so cool. And I also have to say a shout out to my husband because my last name previously was Bell, and Rachel Bell it's a very common name. And so thankfully he gave me a last name that was spelled wrong. And now I'm one of the few. So I'm able to kind of dominate Google more easily. So.
I like that. So it's unique. I like that. Over to you, Rob.
Classy surname. As I said, there's a striker called something Pedersen. I just know that he was a great striker.
Yeah, he was European. I remember the name.
Classy name. I like it. So again, thank you very much, Rachel. Once again, for our listeners to remember Elevation Nation, we thank you for your support and your continued support. If you like this episode, we'd love it to give us a 5-star review on iTunes and Stitcher, and we will go and say, look, the new phrase now is, what is it, Leon? It's elevate, execute, and evolutionize your business. Whereas before it was sort of high heights of productivity.
Absolutely.
I like that.
I kind of like both. But who's going to have the final word today, Leon? Because last time we've given it to the guest a couple of times.
Yeah, we have. No, I'm going to claim it today, Rob.
You're going to claim it? I thought you were going to
Yeah, I'm going to take it. It's mine. So, final words before we close out. I'm just going to finish with what Rachel started with. Take care of the people and they will take care of you. And I'm sure this is why she's such a social media powerhouse. She takes care of people. So if you're following her, you'll see what I've come across. She connects people. And that is the closing line for today. Thank you very much, Rachel. It's been a pleasure. It's been as interesting as I hoped it would be. And it's been even more. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Leon and Rob. You guys are a blast.
Until next time, Elevation Nation, visit www.businessownerelevation.com and keep soaring to new and higher heights of productivity and profitability.